It's Sunday, March 20th. And on Friday, President Biden and President Xi of China talked about the situation with Russia. And I'm sure that Biden asked Xi if he was going to help Russia in this invasion of the Ukraine. And Xi probably said he is not doing anything. And that's probably 100% true. I don't think he's doing anything yet. But he's got a serious problem on his hands. Russia is one of his allies. But he, Xi, and the Chinese economy depend upon an awful lot of business, I'll call it, from the Western countries. Those who are opposed to Russia and their invasion, or as they call it, special military action in the Ukraine. So China obviously has denied giving Russia any help, or even maybe possibly thinking about giving them help. And I'm sure that China will not give them any real stiff military support, like weapons, weapons and planes and things like that. They may give them some humanitarian support, like sending meals over. I don't know what they would send over, maybe chicken chow mein or something like that, to keep the troops healthy. But Russia is taking a beating in the Ukraine. The situation has deteriorated so badly for Russia that they have asked their troops who have been fighting in Syria and maintaining the aircraft that have been helping Syria stay alive in the long-term Syrian conflict. They are calling those people back, calling them back to Russia to get involved in this special military operation that's going on in the Ukraine. Anyhow, getting back to China on this situation, they're stuck in a hard place. They want to help Russia, but they can't openly help them in any significant manner because the Western countries might take action. So it's obvious that Xi is very unsettled by the Russian invasion and the performance of the Russian military, because the Russian military, has experienced logistical and strategic setbacks since this special military operation began more than 3 weeks ago, right? So Beijing is upset by that, because now they're really put in a tenuous situation. The Russian military is screwed up. And what's even worse for Xi and China, they were caught off guard because their own intelligence community had not been able to figure this out. They couldn't predict that it was going to go this badly for Russia in the Ukraine invasion, right? So if China didn't get any advance notice or didn't recognize the signs that the Russian military was not up to the task, they don't know how to prepare to help. They weren't ready for this call for help. And now they're caught in that terrible dilemma. And I think Biden understood that, and he probably pointed it out to Xi. Because from my understanding of this conversation, that Biden did more talking than Xi did. And Xi tried to bring Taiwan into the conversation and was worried more about Taiwan than what was going on in the Ukraine. So that in itself is an interesting part of this whole discussion, that Xi wanted to talk about Taiwan, but Biden pressed on about Russia. I think Biden realizes that China's probably not going to send heavy equipment over to Russia in this situation, but is probably prepared, as I said before, to send them meals maybe and things like that. But I would think that we don't want China to help them in any way, shape, or form. It may very well be that China decides to help out Russia against the sanctions. Maybe they could give them some money, but I don't know that China wants to do that. It seems like that would be easy, to kind of send over a couple of $1 billion periodically to ease the pain of what's going on with the sanctions. But I don't think that China has enough resources to overcome the effects of the sanctions. Not that I think the sanctions mean that much to Putin himself. The Russian people may be feeling those sanctions, but I don't know that Putin himself is feeling the extent of these sanctions, and I, for one, thought we should have done some other things beyond the sanctions, So I think that Biden tried to make it clear that China will take on the responsibility for any actions it takes to support the Russians. If they support the Russians in any way, there will be some consequences. Although I don't think Biden enumerated the consequences that could possibly happen to China. And I think he'd have to be careful about that, because I think China has a certain amount of leverage in and of themselves, so I don't know that you could threaten them in any way, shape, or form that would really, really put them on their ass, because we have too much invested in China. We've set China up so that they have the upper hand in a lot of ways. So I think this conversation between the two of them was probably a very delicate conversation, although I think that Biden stressed his points forcefully, and I think that China, Xi said they were against any kind of war. They don't think wars are doing the world any good, and they are against whatever actions are going on there, but he did not declare it a war. In his mind, it was a dispute between two nations, and it got out of hand perhaps, but he didn't declare it a war. He used the languages that were being promoted by Putin and the Russians of special military operation of sorts, right? And so I don't know what's going to happen over there. I don't know if China's really going to help in any meaningful way, and I think that Russia is really, really put itself in a bad situation, and they have proved to the rest of the world that they are not this giant that Putin perceives them to be, because the Ukrainians are giving him much more than he bargained for. And when he lies to the world and tells them that the Russians are not attacking any civilians and they're not trying to kill any civilians, I don't know how a man can say something like that when these buildings and these images are out, destroying apartment houses, bombing maternity hospitals with little kids and pregnant women in them. We can stand up to the rest of the world and say they're not attacking civilians. But he has to say that, and somehow or other he tries to not let that information get into the hands of the Russian population. But I believe that a large percentage of the population really knows what's going on. I think it's almost impossible to hide everything. We'll have to see if this thing continues on. So, have a great day, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.